Lophophorates all possess a structure called a lophophore, which is a U-shaped feeding structure surrounded by hollow tentacles, and this is the lophophore here. You can see it very well on this phoronid. Speaking of phoronids, they're also known as horseshoe worms, and here you can see some representatives of the Phoronida. Whoops. The Phoronida are all small and marine and sessile organisms. You can see here in this diagram, there's the lophophore, that horseshoe-shaped tentacular feeding structure that leads down to the mouth. They have a U-shaped gut. You can see the gut in this image. Goes down here in orange and back up, U-shaped, and it leads to the anus. And these things are worm-like, and they live within a leathery or chitinous tube in the ocean floor. Ectoprocta, also known as bryozoa. These are also lophophorates. You can see here in this illustration the lophophore. You can see here in this colony of bryozoans or ectoproctans, they're lophophores. The name means anus outside of the ring because their anus actually emerges outside of the lophophore, whereas there are some other organisms in which the anus empties into the lophophore that we don't really talk about. Those are called endoprocta. They're also called moss animals because they do kind of superficially look like mosses to some marine biologist, I guess. The vast majority of Ectoprocta are marine. There is one genus of freshwater Ectoprocta, and by and large they are colonial organisms. You find them growing in colonies kind of looking superficially like corals. Also like corals, they produce a calcium carbonate structure around themselves called a zooecium, and each of the individual units of that colony is called a zooid. All right, so the zooids are produced within zoecia. The zooids are the animals, and the zoecia are the calcium carbonate skeletons that they produce collectively. Our last phylum of lophophorates are the Brachiopoda, also known as lamp shells. They are also all marine, and like bivalves, they kind of superficially look like bivalves. But the symmetry plane is different from the symmetry plane in bivalves. You've got two calcified shells. You see them there in the illustration. And some of them have this little structure down here called a pedicel, or a little stalk. And brachiopods are very frequently found in fossil deposits. So here you can see, looking inside the shell of a lamp shell, that it's got that U-shaped and tentacled lophophore. Here you can see it in this dissected and dead brachiopod. It's called the lophophore. All right, so here you can see on the top we've got a view of a brachiopod. Down here we've got a view of a clam, which is in the class Bivalvia. And what do I mean by they have different planes of symmetry? So here we're looking down on the top. Here we have the view from the hinge of the brachiopod, and their symmetry is right down the middle. Right down the middle. Whereas with a clam, if we tried to cut it, we would not get two equal-sized halves by cutting it down the middle of the valves. Its bilateral symmetry is through between the valves. So that's what we mean by a different plane of symmetry. Okay, so that's about all we need to know about lophophorates. And next stop will be the Ecdysozoa.